you'll probably be wondering what that funny sound was. That is the Chanting Millions, which was the name of a film, a documentary film, that I made for the assignment series, the BBC, in 1995. And it's about a Japanese religious cult called the Soka Gakkai, for whom chanting is a very important part of their daily life. Now, the Soka Gakkai were very powerful. As I say, they had more than 10 million members in those days, and also considered to be, by some people, somewhat dangerous, though by others they were very much revered. I found making this film absolutely fascinating because I first went to Japan when I was about 19 years old. I was on leave from Korea, where I was doing my military service, and I had some leave in Japan and found it a completely fascinating place, and it had interested me ever since then. And when I went back to make this film, I saw a completely different aspect of Japanese life. The leader of the Soka Gakkai was a gentleman called Mr. Ikeda, who I understand is still alive today, though not nearly as powerful, I imagine, as he was in the days when I made this film. He then was very much feared, and it was thought that he would probably have a great deal of influence on Japanese political life. You will see why in a few minutes' time. But so I hope you enjoy the Chanting Millions. Here we are.
In the year we commemorate the Allied victory over Japan and the terrible atrocities it revealed, we're again reminded that this is a land of puzzling contradictions. As well as ornate temples and pastoral calm and mysticism and pacifism, there are sudden eruptions of extreme violence. When this year poison gas was released into the Tokyo subway, the shocking suspicion emerged that it was done by a religious cult that claims its roots in Buddhism. It was in the foothills of Japan's sacred Mount Fuji that the Om Shinrikyo sect that stands accused of the gas attack trained its followers. It was in Buddhist teachings and in the Book of Revelation, grossly perverted and corrupted, that justification was somehow found for mass murder. That is the charge that faces the charismatic leader of Om, Shoko Asahara, when he shortly goes on trial.
The Om case raises many concerns that have come up before in relation to other cults around the world. But it also poses questions that are peculiar to Japan. Above all, the Om case calls into question the role and the status and the influence of the vast number of other religious groups. Believe it or not, in Japan today there are roughly 231,000 officially registered religious organizations. Most of them are very small, but some are big and powerful. By far the biggest, with 10 million followers, is Soka Gakkai.
Soka Gakkai is much more than a religious organization. It's a widespread social and political movement, highly disciplined and some say dangerous. Head of Soka Gakkai since 1960 is Daisaku Ikeda. For his supporters, Ikeda is the great cultural and spiritual leader. Another view says he's a bully with a lust for power.
本当にもう平凡で、それで真面目なおじさんに対してみんな独裁者だとかカリスマだとかなんだかんだマスコミっていうのも少し BBC は別ですけどね、作り上がってしまって大変迷惑食ってるんです私は。
Common men, however serious, do not find themselves, as Mr. Ikeda frequently does, in the company of an international elite that includes the likes of Mrs. Thatcher. He's frequently photographed with royalty, prime ministers and presidents. When President Mandela came recently to Japan on a state visit, his only private audience was with Mr. Ikeda. Why is a man who has never held public office found in such company? He has access to great wealth, but is that enough? Since powerful people seek the company of other powerful people, what does that tell us about Mr. Ikeda?
現在のですね、日本におきまして、ただ一人の人間の持つ力量ではですね、池田大作は最高の実力者だと思います。
This is the foundation of Mr. Ikeda's power. Soka Gakkai is the lay organization founded to support Nichiren Shoshu Buddhism, a 700-year-old sect. These followers of a 13th century Japanese monk are considered heretical by mainstream Buddhists. Central to their belief is the power of chanting, that by the invocational recitation of the words Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, almost anything can be achieved. Soka Gakkai took these ancient and simple beliefs and marketed them with astounding success. It may look spiritual, but Soka Gakkai is all about practical things, and that includes personal wealth and political power. It's in Japan's cities that Soka Gakkai gained most of its support. In the post-war years, it grew rapidly, and it's thought to have had special appeal for a defeated and disillusioned generation. The faithful are expected to chant daily, to donate generously to Soka funds, and to recruit new members. In the city of Kawasaki, south of Tokyo, Soka has devoted support from the Umezawa family, who own a small chain of beauty parlors. Apart from the father of the family, all the others, son, daughter and in-laws, are in the business. First to join Soka Gakkai was Mrs. Umezawa. Not only did she convert the rest of the family, but between them they've introduced 112 other families to the practice of daily chanting. Now retired, Mr. Umezawa sometimes chants for 5 hours a day. He and his family have no doubt that the growth of their business and other good fortune is entirely due to regular practice of this ritual. They faithfully pay their dues to Soka Gakkai, and according to Mrs. Umezawa, their loyalty and their chanting is rewarded. It's not only to make money that the Umezawas practice their daily chanting.
で3番目が妊娠した時にね、もう女の子ばっかじゃなくて中絶しようと思ったんですね、だけどこの創価学会に入ってご本尊にお願いすれば男の子が生まれるよっていうことでね、そしてね、じゃあ物は試しということがあるから、じゃあ創価学会に入ってみようって 私がね入ってお願いしたわけです。そしたらねこのお母さんが申請した時にこの男の子が生まれたんですね。
No doubt Soka Gakkai has many satisfied members, but some feel betrayed, sensing that their loyalty and their money and their votes have been exploited to serve the political ambitions of Mr. Ikeda. He founded his own political party in 1964, and although it's been partially dissolved, suspicions remain. Some of them expressed at this protest meeting of former Soka Gakkai members.
池田大作さんはしばしば天下を取ろうということを再三にわたって口走るようになる。そして自分はその最高権力者であるとも言った。
Although Soka Gakkai has taken steps to sever formal links with its political party, it still commands a block vote to use as it wishes.
選挙においてですね、600万の票を持つことができる。それはですね、十数%の数になります。日頃の投票においてですね。従いまして、池田大作氏はですね、その創価学会の棟梁としまして、その票を動かす力をですね、有効に行使すれば多大の影響力を行使することができる。
Of 700 disgruntled former members here, many complain about how Soka Gakkai extracted money from them.
昭和57年、本家である祖父が亡くなり、相続が始まると、学会員たちがいろいろ言ってきて、ついに交付基金に1000万円ぐらい出しなさいと言って訪問してくるようになったのです。支部や本部幹部がやってきて、必要に相続で遺産が入ったのは分かってるんだから1000万ぐらい出せるでしょうと追い詰めるため、親はついに500万円を創価学会に納めました。
Of course, Soka Gakkai justifies all its money-raising activities.
良い精神を多くの市場、すなわち世界に宣伝しよう、売りたい、当然です。宗教は精神的な一つの次元、啓示上の問題になりますけども、やはり世界の人々に知らせよう。
Soka Gakkai has gloriously embarked on its voyage toward the 70th anniversary of its founding. The Soka family throughout the world will continue to advance cheerfully and harmoniously in its Kosen Dufu activities day and night, widening the current of Buddhism among the people throughout the universe, heralding the era of peace and freedom.
Yes, Soka Gakkai is now international. In the UK, this is its lavish headquarters, used by some 8,000 members. But in the United States, and notably in California, Soka Gakkai has greater success, claiming 150,000 adherents. But it's also been much criticized and even classified as a dangerous cult.
I think by anybody's definition of cult, if someone's life is completely controlled by an individual or an organization, that would certainly fit in the category of cult. When I was in the SGI, I would have died for Ikeda. And I know hundreds of people who felt the same way.
I reject categorically the idea that we are a dangerous cult, because to me that would imply a pseudo-religion that exists mainly to take advantage of people, whether financially or psychologically. And I know in my 22 years in this organization, we have never done that.
In America, too, there are certainly satisfied customers. Among the affluent who have seaside homes at Malibu are those who believe that chanting has brought them health, wealth, and happiness, and who spread the word among their friends and neighbors.
I'd like to welcome everyone. We're going to chant, we call morning and evening.
Neil Stevens is an investment banker. He and his wife Lynn hold weekly meetings where they introduce newcomers to the practice of chanting. For some newcomers, chanting in a foreign tongue seems odd, but believers are keen to extol the rewards and the enlightenment it brings.
I thank every day the girl who introduced this practice to me because it changed my life. I have such a beautiful husband, a beautiful daughter. When I had lost 3 little babies, and I had such, I don't know, I had so much fortune, but yet that doesn't guarantee that you're going to be happy. And I was able to tap into the joy in my life and change such poison into medicine and make all my dreams come true, and I really have.
So then Katie got me going on this, doing the Nam-myoho Renge Kyo thing, and it really empowered me to create pretty much my business dream, the beginning of it anyway, and really helped us push it through when we had, tremendous obstacles.
The actual practice of this Buddhism is very accessible to everybody because there's a very simple formula and a daily practice, plus the idea that you tap so directly into your Buddha nature and your life condition that you can actually see results in your daily life.
It turned my life into a living hell, basically. I was miserable.
Why principally?
Mostly because of my husband. They manipulated my husband into becoming a totally different person. He was not the person that I fell in love with and married and wanted to spend the rest of my life with. He became totally obsessed, was never home. They had him going 24 hours a day, and he was hell to live with.
If we put pressure on each other, it was only so that we could move forward and advance as a religious organization in this country. It was not, the primary idea was never to take people's money.
As I was walking out the building, one of the women's division leaders said, "Did you make a contribution today?" And I said, "No, I don't have any money to make a contribution. I have $5 in my purse." "You should give that $5. I can't give that $5. It's Tuesday. I don't get paid until Friday. I have to buy milk." She said, "If you give the $5 today, it'll come back to you in a much bigger way." So I said, "So you're telling me I shouldn't buy milk for my 18-month-old daughter and I should give the $5 to you?" "Yeah." And I said, "No."
Some of our members and leaders, although sincere, were overzealous. And basically about 5 years ago, we just put an end to most specific targets and just decided that the best way to go was just to help people practice Buddhism, and as their own personal circumstances improve in society, as they feel appreciation for this Buddhism, then they will donate.
We're their little worker bees. We're collecting all their little money, all their little honey for them, and we gladly give it over, my feeling was that they just think we're stupid. And if we're promised that we can get anything we want, if we can get instant gratification, which is sort of the American way, we're going to go for it. So that's how they pass it off. You want a car? Chant. You want a better job? Chant. You want more money? Chant.
It occurs to me that one of the attractions, perhaps, of your particular type of Buddhism is that it does promise practical benefits.
That's correct. I think that's very attractive to many people. Maybe more so Americans. We're sort of an instant microwave kind of culture, and I'm sure that appeals to many. I know it appeals to many people.
Is it somewhat dangerous, though, that if you expect it to work miracles in your life, if you expect the Porsche tomorrow, that you are going to be disappointed, and that you may think that religion has failed you?
Yes, that's true. It is a problem if we don't take the time to help people really study the profundity of Buddhism and to understand it's not about Porsches and cars and things like that. These are nice incidentals that might come your way as the result of a higher life condition and your increased ability to work and perform your daily life. But we have to teach that, after all, the idea is to become an enlightened human being, with or without a nice car.
People are approached from the standpoint of doing something for their personal lives. And little by little, they are told that the only way they can advance their personal lives is to advance the organization. Once you've made that connection, that advancing the organization is advancing your personal life, then, you know, they have total control over you. So watching the people who have been abused over time and just fleeced, you know, year in and year out for money, that certainly is, you know, a horrible form of abuse.
But you were one of the abusers.
Yes, I certainly was. At the time, I didn't realize that it was abuse. I was part of that operation, and we thought that no matter what people did for the organization, it would be good for them.
If that's the way it is in the United States, how much greater is the money-making machine in Japan? Soka Gakkai means value-creating society, and essentially it peddles another of those familiar Samuel Smiles recipes for self-improvement. While other philosophies suggest the ultimate values are truth and goodness, Soka Gakkai contends that happiness lies also in profit, and it's something the organization itself is very good at.
非常に詳しいことはわからないんですが、創価学会問題の専門家たちは日本だけで1000カ所以上、ね、の土地、建物、施設等を持っておると。でその金額は最低でも約10兆円を超えるものであると、こういうふうに観測しております。
In the wake of the Kobe earthquake, Soka Gakkai used its money-raising skills to great effect. Special appeals were launched, and the Soka Gakkai membership responded with extra donations, on top of those they routinely make. More than a dozen fundraising drives have supported UN relief activities for refugees, and numerous exhibitions have been mounted to promote Mr. Ikeda's good works.
宗教は大地です。大地を耕して、その上に草木を、きれいな花を咲かしていくのが、すなわち文化、教育、平和を達成していくのが、これが本来の宗教の根本的役割である。
This is the Tokyo Soka Elementary School, part of an integrated system of private schools ranging from kindergarten to university, founded by Daisaku Ikeda. Today, the children celebrate the Tanabata festival. These are the wish trees, decked out with wish paper streamers, each one carrying a child's wishes and dreams. Almost all of the children are from Soka Gakkai families. Like the elementary school, the Soka High School is 4 times oversubscribed. No religion is taught here, but the children are certainly well versed in the achievements and importance of their school's founder, Mr. Ikeda.
He has philosophy based on humanism for the education.
Right.
He's also a poet.
A poet?
Mm-hmm. And he's like, I feel very warm meeting him, and he's like, I feel like he's like my father.
If you compared to other schools, I found my friends much brighter. And
much brighter?
Brighter, yes.
Oh, really?
And they know why they are studying, because they have dream.
Mr. Ikeda's biggest and most powerful dream machine is another of his own creations. Seikyo Shimbun, the Soka Gakkai newspaper, is part of a large publishing empire and has a daily circulation of 5.5 million. It's virtually compulsory reading for Soka members, as it carries a regular column by the leader, as well as promoting, in its own words, the movement for peace and culture. The paper is extremely profitable, making more than £60 million a year. It has its own special view of the world, and is not averse to tidying up the picture to match the Soka version of reality. From the cradle to the grave, Soka Gakkai cares for its members. In a country of many religions, it's always been the Buddhists of Japan who've looked after the hereafter. This has worked very much to the financial benefit of Soka Gakkai. In partnership with the Mitsubishi Bank, a countrywide chain of cemeteries has been constructed, complete with piped Mozart and with thousands of plots, all of them sold. In Japan, it's believed that the spirits of the ancestors care for the living, and so strong emotional bonds are expressed in the way the living remember and treat the dead. This means there's great pressure to purchase a suitable and expensive memorial and to tend it diligently. This deep sense of duty to the ancestors appears to be useful to Soka Gakkai in its dealings with members and employees.
北海道の熱田墓園というのを購入させられました。私の自宅は、埼玉県大宮市にあります東京の隣接県ですね。ですから北海道のしかも外れにある熱田村に墓地を持つ必要は全然なかったんです。熱田墓園の費用は、結局現金では払わずに三菱銀行のローンを組むことになりました。これも反強制的にローンを組まされたわけで、月々それから毎月いくらボーナス月にはいくらという形で、給与から差し引かれて、そのローンを支払っていました。結果的には、正規の費用の倍近くになったんではないでしょうか。
で三菱はですね、いろんなその大きなビジネスをやってる企業体でありまして、で、戦前はね、戦前はですね、三菱財閥ということで日本の大きなですね、巨大企業であったわけですが、で三菱は銀行も経営してるんです。ですから創価学会のメインバンクは三菱の銀行であるということで、常時ですね、三菱と関係があるということですね。
An investigation into Soka Gakkai's gravestone business was triggered by the discovery of the yen equivalent of $1.2 million in a safe discarded in a scrapyard.
でそれを調べてみましたら、金庫の持ち主は創価学会の幹部だったということが分かったんですね。そこで、その幹部自身は自分の個人のものだと言っておりましたけれども、ね、創価学会の法人とは関係ないんだということは言っておりましたが、課税当局はこれおかしいということで、大掛かりな税務調査を始めたところがですね、
その日本のですね、巨大なその宗教法人はいわゆるお布施という名のですね、寄付については全くですね、国税庁税務署のですね監査を受ける必要はありませんし、完全に自由に集め自由にそれを使用することができるわけです。
In the shadow of Mount Fuji, there's spectacular evidence of how Soka Gakkai spent some of its vast wealth. They constructed here a complex of meeting halls, guest houses and shrines. They've included a structure that's the largest temple in Asia and possibly the largest in the world. This is where the Naishirin Shoshu priesthood tended to the spiritual needs of the Soka Gakkai faithful, but not any longer. Following a long-running power struggle between Ikeda and the priesthood, he and the entire Soka Gakkai membership was excommunicated. Since 1992, the temple has been off-limits, and the war of words continues.
ご承認外科が判断をなすって、いろいろ共同をした結果、その共同に従わないということで、破門をしたというふうに、まず申し上げておきたいと思います。
仏教史上これほど貢献した団体を、人々を残酷に破門される理由も何にもないの。自分たちのお金儲け、お金貯まったということだけでするなんてことは仏教史上一遍もない。これは不愉快というか、中分子です。奴隷のように神道を扱うように、中世の暗黒時代の宗教時代と同じになりました。
And you see yourself, like Luther, reforming the church and bringing it away from the corruption of Rome.
Yes.
と同じような。
同じです。
Yes, it's the same thing.
必ず歴史は露呈するもん、必ずそういう時期があるもん。同じような方程式が。
I think history is repeated, and I think it comes in a cycle.
ルターです。
So it's just like Luther.
誇りを持ってます。
Mr. Ikeda's role as a thinker, rivaling Martin Luther, is enhanced by Soka University, which he founded in 1971, which is now regarded as one of Japan's more successful seats of learning, and one of the fastest growing. It's already linked to a sister campus in California, and soon to be joined by a second. Thanks to lavish endowment, the pains of recession have scarcely been felt here. A department of bioengineering has recently opened, and a new building program will make room for more faculties and departments that feature in the founder's vision of the future.
In the university prospectus, there's a fulsome account of the founder's life and works, pointing out that he's tirelessly devoted his life to promoting peace, culture and education by establishing numerous educational and cultural institutions. It also lists his honorary doctorates and professorships from around the world, more than 40 of them, and his national decorations and other major awards and major publications in English. There's also a translation of the founding spirit of the university, penned, of course, by Mr. Ikeda. Be the highest seat of learning for humanistic education. Be the cradle of a new culture. Be the fortress for the peace of mankind.
One of Ikeda's major publications in English is titled Choose Life. It's a dialogue with the late Arnold J. Toynbee, the distinguished British historian, and grandfather of Polly Toynbee.
It's hard to imagine here, but the name Toynbee in Japan is still extraordinarily influential, not just in the academic world and political world, but the students still read his books, because he is this prophet of the rise of the Pacific Basin and the power of the Pacific.
Ikeda went to London, England, to have a series of dialogues with a noted British historian, Arnold Toynbee. And we were part of the entourage, traveling in a capacity as a liaison agent, but also in the ever-presence our job was to jump on a bomb or in front of the bullet or in front of a knife in case this man was attacked by some fanatical, unhappy person.
ドクターは本当に子供のように可愛がってくださいました。で、最初のまず対談しましょう、語り合いましょう、語り合いました。で、あんまり高度の話だもんで、通訳を3人変えられました。
For the Soka faithful, the book is almost wholly writ. Years after Professor Toynbee's death, and to their great surprise, Polly Toynbee and her husband were invited to visit Mr. Ikeda in Japan.
everything that we did was formal, huge formal gatherings, meetings with different people, meetings with the women of Soka Gakkai, meetings with different groups, people associated in their minds with my grandfather in some way or another. And we found it very oppressive, very alarming. And certainly by the time it came to the meeting with him, by then we formed a very clear idea of this extraordinarily military-run organization, phenomenal power, wealth, and sinister level of obedience.
Did you get any impression of Ikeda, the great spiritual leader?
I think it would be hard to imagine a less spiritual man. He was in every way earthy, powerful megalomania. One got this aura of power from him that was extremely alarming. We then went on another day to him to a huge sort of Nuremberg-style rally in a stadium where everything was to the greater worship of him. And again, what he really liked was this feeling of power.
Power, and the trappings of power. This palace is the Japanese government's official guest house, where its most important visitors are housed. Recently, the press was summoned here for a photo call to witness the presentation to President Nelson Mandela of an honorary degree by Daisaku Ikeda. Throughout the ceremony, Mr. Ikeda appeared to be on the most intimate terms with the distinguished visitor.
5年前から出国して間もなく牢の中で私の本も読んだらしいんです。でここでお会いしました。5年前近しくお会いしました。そういう友情は一生続けようという意味のことを言ってくださっている。
What he did with my grandfather, he has done time and time again with distinguished people all over the world who haven't a clue who he is or what he is, and just imagine that he's an important and serious Japanese leader. And so they agree to have a meeting with him. And out of perhaps one meeting comes the impression that it's a very close and important relationship, and that this person has given their full support to Ikeda and his movement.
As founder of Soka University, Mr. Ikeda has been able to confer honorary degrees on many of Japan's most eminent visitors. When Mr. Gorbachev was so rewarded, it was another splendid photo opportunity, with Ikeda at center stage, friend of the powerful and patron of the arts. Among Ikeda's more grandiose ventures in his cultural crusade is the establishment of 2 major museums of art. This one houses 5,000 works, including paintings by many of the greatest European masters, from all the principal periods and schools up to the present day. Although there are fine paintings here, experts regard it as a curiously mixed bag, which may be explained in part by the way it was put together. When Mr. Ikeda went shopping in the art galleries of Europe, he didn't waste time on second thoughts or second opinions.
The rapidness of which Ikeda would walk through the galleries impressed me. He would spend maybe 4 to 6 minutes in each gallery. He would point and utter these commands. The names of the works, the prices, and the catalog, and everything was written down. Several hours later, one of the general secretaries would come back with a briefcase full of money. If the man was willing to meet for the bulk price, the 4, 3, or 6 pieces from his gallery, he was given the cash. I found it amazing to see how fast one man could spend so much money.
Very serious questions have been asked on how so much money was spent on certain works of art and where the money went. Here at the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo, negotiations allegedly took place in 1989 for the purchase of 2 French Impressionist paintings that are now in the Soka Gakkai collection. Tax authorities became suspicious because both Soka Gakkai and Mitsubishi claimed to have purchased the same paintings on the same day, in the same place, but at a different price. Tax investigators could find no trace of 2 French nationals who supposedly sold the 2 Renoir paintings to Mitsubishi.
There appears to have been a double sale of the paintings in which $11 million went astray, simply disappeared. Japanese newspapers suggest that the money probably finished up in a political slush fund, and that Soka Gakkai is more interested in peddling political influence than it is in French Impressionism.
美術館でルノワールを高く買った買わないとか大阪とかなんですけどね、何もこれ関係ない。何でも悪いものはみんな私がやって出したんですよ。もう大変な不幸な立場なんです。
No one was really made the scapegoat. Although the authorities raided the premises of art dealers to discover who did sell the paintings and to whom, and although they confiscated documents, and although Mitsubishi was ticked off for dealing in antiques without a license, and although the inquiries went on for months by official agencies and the press, nothing was resolved.
わからない段階で、日本の行政当局が、追及することを諦めた。それで依然としてですね、3億円使途不明金のままで、終わっておるということは、おそらく私はですね、創価学会が大きな政治的な影響力をですね、関係当局に行使したのではないかと。
牢へ入るわけじゃありませんし、去りにて殺されるわけじゃありませんし、別に悪口もう自由の時代で、表現の自由の時代で、言論の自由だ。いくらも言い合っていいんです。あんまり感情的になったり、あんまり偏見なことはやっぱり民主主義、人権問題に影響がしてくる将来を心配します。
To make sure that its members are not corrupted by hostile media, Soka Gakkai has its own communications network to spread the word to 1,000 meeting halls and cultural centers. This can be of great value when it comes to election time. Last year, Soka Gakkai's own party, Komei, was partially merged to form a new party, Shinto. Recent elections for the upper house were the first real test of its strength. The voter turnout was the lowest in recent history, benefiting the party that could best deliver the votes. The results sent shockwaves through political circles, with the new party winning 40 seats thanks to the Soka Gakkai vote. And that must have profound implications for Mr. Ikeda.
As Shinto, it must stand a reasonable chance, does it not, of being actually elected and forming a government?
答えは簡単にできますけれども、その発言の立場は非常に難しい立場にあります。あるといえば油断します、新進党が。ないといえば今度はみんなが自信を失います。そういう意味において、あるかもしれない、ないかもしれない、こう答えましょう。
創価学会はですね、宗教法人ということを隠れ蓑にした池田の政治団体であるというのは我々の認識です。で、池田は創価学会というものを用いまして、日本の政治、日本の統治機構を実質的にですね、支配しようとしているわけです。
If we conclude from all the evidence that Soka Gakkai is not quite the great force for peace and harmony and human happiness it claims to be, does that really matter, except to a number of hurt and angry individuals? For surely the Shinrikyo case tells us that it does matter. What that bizarre story reveals is a dangerous weakness in the Japanese constitution that leaves it virtually powerless to deal with religious organizations. The Constitution imposed on Japan by the United States at the end of World War II guarantees freedom from state interference with religious groups, and that provision protects their tax-exempt status. Now, unless changes are made to the law, they'll continue to use or misuse their great wealth as they will.
Changes to the religious corporation law could check the secret use of funds that in the Shinrikyo case were used to develop chemical weapons. Such reforms are now before Japan's legislators. If they become law, they could curb the power of all religious groups, including Soka Gakkai. In a recent development, Japan's justice minister announced his resignation, following allegations that in a secret deal with the opposition Shinto party, he'd agreed to obstruct his own government's efforts to make religious organizations more accountable. The name of Soka Gakkai, through its support for Shinto, is bound to be linked to the scandal. The Japanese public is well aware that if recent election results are repeated in a general election, Shinto could take the reins of government. And where then would the real power lie?